Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Real Estate America News. We're rolling sevens today. It is the seventh day of the seventh month, year of our Lord 2022. Action-packed show, as always. Wonderful co-hosts. Sellers are getting creative to help their buyers in a high interest rate environment. What are the sellers doing to go ahead and help get those homes sold? We're going to go ahead and find out. 30% increase in rent cost across the United States of America. We're going to find out how that's hurting the renters. Opinion piece. Patrick Bet David says Dave Ramsey is wrong. You heard it right. Dave Ramsey is wrong. We're going to listen in to Patrick Bet David. Mortgage news with Captain Kirk Jaffe is coming up in edition 4. And what is the Fed going to do next, ladies and gentlemen? What is the Fed going to do next? We'll roundtable that for our final segment. But before we get moving forward, I'm going to introduce today's co-host, and it is Mr. Tony Barbarino. How are you doing today, Mr. Tony?
Very well. How about you, my good man?
I'm good. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Yes. I've missed you all. It's like a drug being here. It's just so great and so appreciative. And man, being away for just a few shows, doing some stuff with the family, playing with the kids. But in the back of my brain is, boy, I can't wait to get back on the show.
We've got news to cover today, Tony. Looks like sellers are starting to go ahead and get a little creative to help the assist in selling their homes, helping the buyers. We're going to find out about that. Looks like there's a 30% increase across the U.S. in average rent cost. Quite interesting.
Man. Wow, those rentals, boy, especially in California, and I think Florida as well. It's just it's super competitive right now.
Extremely competitive. All right, we're going to find out what's going on with rent prices. We've got an opinion piece coming up. Patrick Bet Davis says Dave Ramsey is wrong. You think Dave Ramsey's wrong, Tony?
That's kind of hard to say. You know me about data. I want to be able to have a look-see at the innards of what they're looking at. So if you're going to, like he said on that clip, I watched the whole thing. He's got one really good point. You got to pick a side. So I'm still on the fence about that one. I still think real estate is, really local. So I would take the data with a bit of a grain of salt. Is Dave Ramsey wrong? Oh, I'm starting to lean towards Patrick a little bit on this one.
So am I. I do think Dave Ramsey is wrong. So says Sarge. So I'm going to just boldly put it out there.
Ooh.
Yeah. Hey, so why in the world should anybody even watch us here at Real Estate America News, Tony?
Oh, man, you want to talk about boots on the ground? Well, basically, for all of you guys watching, if you're watching on replay, thanks for being here, and give us a like if you don't mind, and throw some questions. In this show, we really have people who care. We're in the trenches. We're out there, working our business. We're not, celebrities, at least not yet. But if they're looking for actual real people conversation between different aspects of real estate, different professionals, whether it's appraisers, real estate agents, people involved in marketing, we are in the mix, the rough and tumble of it. It's not that we have anything magical to share. We're sharing our own thoughts, opinions, perspectives. So if you're looking for, in my opinion, a genuine conversation about what's going on, especially with the scary stuff, I think this is a really great place people should tune into.
Tony might not have something magical to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. However, Kirk Jaffe does. He's a magical man. He's all things mortgage. So you guys are going to want to stick around to get the latest insights from the mortgage report with Captain Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, we stream live every Tuesday and Thursday at high noon Eastern, 0900 Pacific. Bring your favorite beverage. Please go ahead and place some comments in here. And if you guys have any questions from any of the co-hosts, we'll bring up these comments here on the screen, and we'll go ahead and get these things answered if we can in real time. So if you haven't already, go over to reunation.com. Check out Real Estate America's newsroom. Enter your information to go ahead and get show notes and hot insider news. We go ahead and send out all of our news clips and different reports and everything else to you guys for post-show type stuff. Also, if you guys want to be on the show or you have any hot insider news yourself, please go ahead and shoot over to RU Nation. Check out that block, enter your information, and leave us a message. So
don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Give us some love. Hit that bell thing and shoot us a thumbs up if you appreciate us spending our non-infinite life dropping knowledge bombs for you and breaking down the news. So Good
Well
deal.
said. Well said.
Good. Well, there's the intro. How did I do, Tony?
Beautiful as always, Sarge.
Don't
always
fluff,
a
don't
pro.
fluff my feathers. Don't. shoot
Okay,
me
you were
straight.
fantastic. You were fantastic. I hate you. You're so good. Oh, you set the standard so high, I can't chase you anymore.
Well, we always have room for improvement, do we not, ladies and gentlemen? All right. Let's go ahead and kick this show off here. I'm going to bring in some fine, fantastic gentlemen. The Duke of the Dollar, Mr. Tim Parnell from Patriot Wealth Nation is here today, and Captain Kirk Jaffe, as always.
Good to be here.
Good morning.
All right, gentlemen. You guys want to share anything before we kick this thing off?
Woo, man, where do you want me to start? I don't think we have enough time for me to just go ad-libbing on this show right now. Okay, so you got to rein me in, Jake. You got to rein me in. So
all right, cool.
Keep it
Well, we'll rein it in right now. So sellers are getting creative to help their buyers in a high interest rate environment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a share screen. It might be a little glitchy. I'm going to go ahead and run through a short, maybe 45 seconds to go ahead and get this thing kicked off. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And coming up, here we go.
Realtors report more people are exploring interest rate buydowns.
CBS also Melanie Torrey joins us live tonight. Melanie, that's pretty noteworthy here, depending on where you are in the market and if you're looking or selling a home. So some sellers are willing to actually put up money to help the buyers here.
Yeah, well, we're talking about temporary interest rate buydowns. That's when the seller takes part of their profit from the sale and puts it toward helping the buyer make payments at a lower interest rate. It typically only lasts for a couple of years, but right now it's helping homes sell while interest rates are high. For the first time in years, the Austin Board of Realtors says the area housing market is stabilizing, something that'll help.
All right, let's kick this off here. Interest rate buydowns. Break this down for us, Captain Kirk. So the sellers are saying, oop, my home's not moving like it should. I need to go ahead and maybe jump in here with the assist, right? So break this down for us, Kirk. What's it about?
Yeah, interest rate buydowns have been around for years, and it's a great way to incentivize a buyer and a seller to make a transaction. Interestingly enough, I mentioned this on the show about a month ago and started doing some research to see where all the lenders were with it. Interest rate buydowns haven't been popular in like 10 years just because interest rates have been going down, right? So what I found was a lot of lenders are actually not allowing them. I suspect that's because when you buy down interest rate, it changes the quality and the value of the future of that mortgage for the investor. So the investors don't like it right now because they know everyone's going to refinance. So they're going to give a buy down, and then they're going to have to give up the refinance and lose that profit stream anyways. So that's a big concern. So if you're thinking about doing it as a seller, make sure you talk to your agent and have your lender look it up ahead of time to make sure that the buyers can qualify and have that option. But it is a great way to do it. So generally it costs you about 2 points to drop an interest rate 1%.
Okay. So is this something that agents should be talking to sellers about to attract more buyers if they're in a higher price point?
Yeah, you got to look at the economics of it. I think incentivizing buyers is a good thing to do right now. I think the markets are so good, strong, have been strong, appreciation has been strong, that there's a lot of money to capture and not leave on the table. So if you can't get a 2-1 buy down, maybe you pay all the closing costs, except for your transfer taxes. It's like an extra, you're going to pay closing costs for a buyer. Maybe you're looking at on a $300,000 purchase, you're looking at maybe $5,000, which would be about the same as a 2-1 buy down. So you can accomplish the same benefit even if the buy down's not available.
Outstanding. Tim, what say you?
Yeah, no, I think agents are going to have to either learn new skills if they haven't had to exercise anything other than bid over. And so like we've talked about in past shows, it's a good time to add some new tools to your toolbox. That is definitely one of them. Another one I know of is, reverse writing the offer, meaning that if you've had people visit the house but they didn't put an offer on, the seller can actually put the contract together and send it to a buyer. They can kind of motivate them. Maybe they offer a little less for the property, something like that has some interesting terms. So, maybe a little bit more work on the seller side than you ever had to do before. And that's okay. You just need to get creative, but you also need to have these conversations preemptively with your listers, your sellers, to let them know this is what's going on. And I would, it's kind of like, there's a book, I forget the author, Never Split the Difference. It's a very good book. It's worth reading. But here's the thing about that book. It literally says, if you've got to deliver bad news, you should do it and just prep them so in their mind, they're thinking the worst is coming. And then when you tell them what the news actually is, they go, oh, well, that's not as bad as I thought. So I would argue that as best as you can and still keep the deal in play and capture that deal, you need to prepare them for the worst. And that way, when something better happens, you come out on top. So under promise, over deliver, maybe another way to put it.
Understood. Good deal. Thank you, Tim. Tony, what say you?
I think offering the idea of buying down a buyer's rate, it is a fair and sound play, but not for every single deal. My only initial concern is when people hear about this, that it's like they may run too quickly with it. I would suggest that agents who are going to put this in their toolbox to do, for example, like Tim said, if the house isn't selling, even though it's priced fairly, who knows why, you have another way to approach these potential buyers or the agents who have the potential buyers and say, hey, we have a possible opportunity to do a buy down on the interest rate of your buyer, but you want to check with at least 1, 2, or maybe even 3 lenders and say, look, here's our price point. If we have conventional loans, FHAs, VA loans, what approximately can we or can't do? What are the limitations? Because you can't just arbitrarily throw somebody $80,000 in credit. There may be a lot of financial limitations. So I would say if anyone's going to use the buy down method, I've done it before, where you go back to a buyer, something falls out of escrow, and you come back to that person, talk to the agent and say, we really want to be able to work something out. I understand there was, X, Y, and Z reasons, but my seller's offering to buy down the interest rate, but let's just check on the limitations. So an agent really has to do their homework and not get above their pay grade and talk to a lender that like, and trust, and talk about the variable options so you can at least have a sense of how much money you can play with, so to speak, when dealing with the opportunity of giving the buyer a chance to buy down. So it could save some deals. You wouldn't want to necessarily put it out there as your first pitch, but you may want to save it maybe as a backup plan in case things aren't working for your seller right now.
Kirk, so is this something that you can go ahead and help all of the realtors with?
Yeah, definitely can get realtors educated. I can provide them, a chart to explain how the 2-1 buy down actually works and where the benefits are and the pitfalls, as Tony's talking about. At the end of the day, I love what Tim said too. There are a lot of pieces in play when you're negotiating a deal. So don't be afraid to turn over any rock and make a good win-win situation for buyers and sellers.
10-4. All right, good deal. So, gentlemen, looks like the rent costs are going up for folks. So if you can't buy a home, the only other option you have is live on the street or rent a home, right? Kind of a scenario. Or move back in with mom and dad as a 40-year-old man. Interesting. That would be interesting. I should call my folks and let them know I'm moving back in and see what they say just for the fun of it.
Do a live on the show. Live.
Yeah. Ma, Dad, it's Jake. I'm moving back in. But anyways, so obviously we all have costs that we're dealing with everywhere because of the inflation and economy, and direct rental increase for Americans is happening. Let's go ahead and tune in here to a report talking about the perfect storm is a brewing. Here we go.
New data from Freddie Mac shows the critical 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, most popular mortgage in this country, has paused its recent steady climb, falling to 5.7% for the week ending June 30th. This is the first time it's fallen over the last month. I want to bring in Carroll founder and CEO Patrick Carroll. And Patrick, it's great to have you here. This kind of goes to the argument you've already made, and you've been on the show before, that it's all about the Sun Belt right now. That's where the opportunity is, and that's where people should be looking.
Yeah, I mean, I've been acquiring properties in the Sun Belt states since 2004. Since 2011, we've done over 20 billion in transactions. So, I'd like to consider myself an expert in the space. And what we saw early on was basically this is a lower cost, business-friendly, higher lifestyle type of living, So first, we saw companies starting to move. Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, Tampa, Florida, South Florida. With the jobs, obviously the people come. And then following COVID, everybody moved out of the big cities. Everybody wanted space. Everybody wanted, better weather. And so it's really brought a lot of awareness.
But now what's happening with mortgage rates, because we're talking a $500 difference on a mortgage. So somebody that moved to Florida and bought in Texas they're saying their mortgages jump, and their wages may not be jumping. And that's a problem. It's also pushing out new home buyers who are getting kicked out of the market now.
Yeah,
we're going to see a slowdown, I think, is my point here.
I think so too, and I think people will be renting longer. I think rental housing is a viable option permanently. It allows flexibility, and it allows people to adjust and be in these areas but not be locked in by buying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a positive for our business.
The rent story is changing. Let's talk about that, because your company has been raising rents, but you were just telling me before we came on the air, by about 30%. Get ready for the hate mail. What are you seeing in terms of renter retention sentiment in the market? Because it's not just in the Sun Belt, like you're talking about, where you're raising rents 30%. It's also happening in Northeast cities as well, like here.
Yeah, it's a supply and demand thing. Obviously people are not thrilled to see rent increases. I think one of the important things to point out is our costs are going up. So as our costs go up, our cost of interest, our cost of renovations, our costs of our employees, we need to push those increases along through rent increases. Now, how long is that sustainable? I'm not quite sure, but it's been something where we've been able to retain. Our occupancies are all-time high. So we haven't seen any slowdown in that yet.
No slowdown yet. No slowdown yet. So let's bring in the Duke of the Dollar. I know you have some things to say regarding this. Tim, what say you?
Yeah, well, business, right? They're in the business of making money. And if your gas station is raising the cost of gas, not because they're bad guys, but because they have to do so with oil prices and economy, and your food's going up and the cost of transporting your food to the stores is going up, everything goes up, right? And so, yeah, I can't sit here and blame the guy for raising rents. Good for him. He's running a business. He's trying to stay profitable. And as long as there's a need, there's a supply and the demand. The demand is higher right now than the supply. So he's going to raise his rents. And if people are going to pay it, they're going to pay it. And so, I'm not going to fault a man for running a business. And that being said, yeah, rents are on the rise. I've had a couple people reach out to me locally asking for advice, help, whatever, on trying to get into rental properties because they're just not finding any options and they're just flying off the shelves. And, all I can do is kind of give them some advice, point them on the right direction, because here in Texas, helping somebody with finding a rental property as a realtor, it takes a lot of time, the same amount of time as buying a house. And there is no financial gain on the back end as a professional. So the best I could do is just advise them, hey, go to these places, look here. And so, you try to be as high a service as you can with the markets being as interesting as they are. But yeah, rents are on the rise. What are you going to do?
Kirk, so now it's going to be tougher for these folks to save money, right? If their rent is increasing for down payments, you see this being systemic?
Yeah, I do. It started out with housing going through a boom and people trying to capture homes. And then that became challenging because as I've said on the show before, it's the down payment that's a problem. And rents going up 30% just proves the point. People can afford the cash flow, even though it's painful. And I think, with wages rising at about 5 or 6% and rents going up 30% in some markets, that's not going to be sustainable. But there is still a housing shortage. I think renters have to become creative. I've heard of some people offering to paint apartments to get a discount on their rent or things like that, getting into apartments by adding some value. So keep that in mind if you're a renter. If you're a real estate agent, let's put these people on long-term plans. They might need a year or 2 years of being coached through how to properly save, how to get themselves ready to buy a home. It just takes a little bit longer. So they need your professional advice more than they ever did before.
That is a great idea, to go ahead and get people onto a plan, start coaching and mentoring.
Oh yeah, I call it the path to buy. So I actually have an entire plan. If anybody wants to talk, any real estate agents or everybody wants to talk to me about how to set up a plan to buy or path to buy, we have the whole thing from credit to down payment to cash flows to budgeting, everything you need to be able to buy a home. And it's not about how long it takes. It's whenever you're ready. But you got to start now as a consumer because it's going to be more difficult than ever before.
Get in and serve the American folks, real estate agents that are watching. Call Captain Kirk right now and go ahead and get the knowledge of the plan to buy. It sounds like an ultimate home buyer program to me. That's fantastic.
Sure.
Paul, what say you? Rents are on the rise, 30%. How do our American folks need to handle this? What say you?
I'll tell you, I am helping now a veteran coming from Jacksonville, and they were looking at apartments, and the apartments have gone up so much. They said, why don't we just get a house to rent? And they will do exactly what you say, Kirk. They're going to wait a couple years and start and get a plan together on where they want to live. But at this point, they're going to have to rent for a couple years to see where they're going to be. 30%, guys, that's out of $1,000. That's $300 more a month. In a year, you're paying $3,600. Yeah, $3,600 a year, and that's just the increase. So it's a lot. I mean, what do I say to this? You know, I really think that now is really a good time to really think about buying. If you haven't, contact your local real estate agent that you trust and communicate strongly with you, and get on a plan like Kirk said, because interest rates came down a little bit, but that I think is just a break.
I'll tell you what, if I was a licensed real estate agent right now in this economy, I would be sending information to every renter and get my hands on asking, are you planning on possibly purchasing in the future? 2 years, let's get you on a plan, the ultimate home buyer program. Come to my workshop, let's sit down, let's go ahead and work this thing out.
Jake, I think it's also interesting because it's become a digital economy and so many people are working from home. You know, if you want to stay in a specific area, you may have to endure a 30% rent increase. But if you're working from home and remotely, and you work with good real estate agents who have an amazing national network like what we're building on this show, you could move out of your area, buy a home that you can afford, and save money, save taxes, save all the benefits of owning a home, and then move back into your preferred area in 2 years instead of renting. I mean, there are options. It just takes a little bit of a flexible mind to use what we have available today. You know, it's just the resources are different today than they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. You may have to move to a different area and then move back to where you want to be. And we have that flexibility now with our economy and the way that people work, remote working.
Sounds good. So if any real estate agents want your assistance in a workshop, Kirk, are you open to that?
Absolutely.
Good.
Live or on digital, however they want to do it. I love traveling.
Jaffe.com, ladies and gentlemen, take them up on it. You'll be blessed and unstoppable. Tony, what say you?
Well, I agree with Kirk, as always, that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So those of you who, if you think you have a plan, you probably don't. Sometimes it takes an outsider like, Paul, Kirk, myself, Jake, we're here to help. And, creating a plan, any plan is a start. You have to get going on something. So a lot of people usually come from a position of, I don't know if I can do this. But there's a way you can either do it now or you can plan to do it later and have a target. And especially with rentals now, you got the population who can't compete against other people that have more cash. They're there. Too few homes in the market. Rates are really high, making the loans less affordable. But to borrow from what Kirk said about moving out to some place you can work remotely and then sell one day and come back, another possible idea of many is you can always try talking to your landlord. Those of you who get a rental, when you slide in, have a good relationship with the landlord, just communicate. And you can always say, hey, have you ever thought about maybe selling this home because I would love to buy it? Can we work something out? And a strategy I had used once is you can have a document created between your renter and your landlord where they'll pay more than the going rate, but a certain percentage of all that money goes towards the price. And of course, you want to have a plan that if you default or fail, what happens as a consequence. But it is an option that you could explore. So don't give up too easily on when you get a rental that you may or may not have to leave. You can try talking to your landlord. You'd be surprised. Some of them want to get out of Dodge and sell because they need to use the money for something else. Maybe they have to move. So there are options out there for renters.
So ladies and gentlemen that are watching this, if you are in a rental situation, just renewed your lease for another year, now is the time to go ahead and start planning. So don't
Great
wait
plan.
until month 9, 10, thinking everything's going to be fine. You don't know what the inventory is going to be like. Prepare.
Sarge is right. Sarge, can I add on that real quick? One sentence is, it's better to plan now, like Sarge just said, plan now while there's no stress, because if you try to plan 3 months left into your lease, you're going to be under pressure. You're probably going to make poor decisions or quit. So listen to Sarge, listen to Kirk, plan now when you don't have to do it. So when you do, you know what action to take.
Outstanding. Well, let's check in with our sponsor here, ladies and gentlemen. If you are planning on making a move, make sure you go to Freedom Move USA. It'll help you save $10,000 to $25,000 on your next move, and you'll be able to find your local Freedom Move USA certified real estate agent in your area. So before you think about talking to another agent, go to Freedom Move USA to find their certified agents. Otherwise, you're going to be paying a big bill. Tony, what say you?
You know what? I think in this business, especially because everything's digital, like Kirk had said, I think we all can agree, everyone shops online for everything, including movers. And of course, when we work on deals, there are times where people want to try to, take away some of our commission because they want to, save a couple of $1,000s. So when someone like myself, who's involved with Freedom Move USA as an approved agent, when I suggest, well, why would you want to take away from me when I do a great job? Instead, why don't we try to save you $18,000 to $25,000 off your move? Wouldn't that be more beneficial to you? And the look on people's faces of, oh, that's right. What's going to cost me to move? Because we discussed on the show, a lot of times people who own a home who sell, they usually don't think in advance what it costs financially, what it costs, and time and grief and stress, what it's going to cost to move. So when a Freedom Move USA agent who's approved to work through the system, when they can offer you a very generous savings on a qualified home, it's shocking the look on people's faces because they're going in with a big bill at the end of the transaction. Whereas with a proper agent who's approved for Freedom Move USA, that big bill that may be coming could possibly shrink drastically. And who wouldn't want to save $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 off their move?
It's going to go a long way, especially if you're selling and then renting. So even if you have to pay an extra rent cost, at least you've got that extra 10 to 20 grand in your pocket. So ladies and gentlemen, don't use another real estate agent that's not certified by Freedom Move USA. Otherwise, you're going to be paying for it. All right, let's get into the opinion piece. Yeah, literally. Let's get into the opinion piece here. Patrick Bet David. So if you don't know him, you're getting ready to find out who he is. He's all over YouTube. Pretty famous and infamous to a lot of different people. But he says Dave Ramsey is wrong. And you all know who Dave Ramsey is. So let's tune in here and see what he has to say.
Dave Ramsey, I think you are wrong. And let me tell you why. So Dave Ramsey is saying he doesn't think real estate is going to take a hit. He thinks real estate is going to be maybe a minor little hit, but not a big hit, which, by the way, he may be right. However, there's one data point you have to look at, whether real estate is going to take a hit or not, because that's where his argument is. His argument is, how is real estate going to take a hit if inventory isn't there? Well, if inventory isn't there, guess who's right? Dave Ramsey is right. Yeah. Why? Here's why. Because say I'm a realtor and Adam is looking to buy $1 million house, okay? And he specifically wants to buy this house in a community that is close to the school because he wants his cats and his kids to go to a nice private school. But the challenge is there's only $2 million homes in the market. One of them doesn't have a swimming pool. The other does have a swimming pool. He wants a swimming pool. One is 4-bedroom. The other one is 3-bedroom. He needs 4 bedrooms. So I go there and I say, Adam, I don't think we're going to make $1 million offer here because you're not going to get it. He says, what do you mean? I said, if you try to negotiate hard here, you're going to lose because they're going to get 50 offers. I say we go strong. What are you talking about? I say we go with an offer of 1.15. Pat, it's $1 million listing. I say you offer 1.1, 1.15. If you really want this thing. Because if you don't, it's going to go cash is going to come in 1.2. So Adam's now panicking. And by the way, my argument as a realtor in that situation, guess who's right? I'm right in that situation. And Adam sits there and says, what? Damn, this guy's right. Why? Because he goes on Realtor every day and nothing new's popping up. Yes or no? When you're looking at houses. Right. So Adam says, okay, Pat, I'm not going to make an offer of 1.15, but I'll make an offer for what? $1,085,000. Okay? Great. He puts the offer for $1,085,000. We send it in. Their realtor comes back saying, we got 47 offers. The biggest one is 1.11. This is your last chance. What do you want to do? I tell Adam, if you don't get this, there's probably not going to be anything for another year or two. Adam comes back and says, let's make that offer 1.16. He loses at 1.17. Okay?
Wow.
Today, if inventory was 50 for the $1 million house and 30 of them had a swimming pool with 4 bedrooms, guess what Adam's now doing? Adam's saying, make an offer of 880.
Yeah.
Make an offer of 90. I'm not making no $1 million offer. There's 45 other properties I can look at. So here's what Dave Ramsey says. The housing market is not crashing. Sorry to end your fear porn party, but the sky is really not falling. It's definitely scary, and some of the things going on truly do suck, but the sky is not falling. And the way he's explaining it is the fact that the inventory is not there. Now, pull up the data I just sent to you from Realtor.com. This is Realtor.com article, okay, and it shows what's happened. Go up a little bit and then zoom in. Go up, go up, go up, go up to the chart and then zoom in. Zoom in. Okay, check this out, guys. Look at this. Go a little bit out. Okay, there you go. Watch this. So active listing count, the years. You see the colors, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 is at the bottom. It's the yellow one. Do you see that? Okay, so inventory, active listing in January to February, it goes down. February to March, pretty even. March to April, about flat. April to May, boom. May to June, boom. 18.7% year over year. This data increasing is the scariest thing for realtors, and it's the best thing for buyers. So if this thing climbs up, Dave Ramsey has to apologize to his fan base for getting this wrong.
And it's going up.
If this thing goes down, we will give Dave Ramsey a shout out for getting it right. But it's that simple. Folks, if there's any data you want to watch, pay very, very close attention to this. You know how you were going to shops and you didn't see any Rolexes for sale? Plenty of.
All right. So if I'm wrong, I'll send Dave Ramsey some flowers. But I'm on Patrick Bet David's side. So what say you, Tony?
It all depends on the quality of the data and one's ability to interpret it. Now, I know a lot of times on any of these main news stream channels, people tend to look at data and they make a call. Fair enough. In my area, this is no sponsor, I'm just sharing honest information. Reportsonhousing.com from Stephen Thomas. He's local. He looks at multiple data points with a lot of data to it and makes reasonable conversations. And as we all know, real estate tends to be miniature local markets, not necessarily what you see on the chart means everyone's going to fail. Because even when things crashed in 2007, there were people still buying and selling houses. So that being said, it's technically hard to pick, somebody who's known on the internet who's going to be right or wrong. But I know that between Dave Ramsey and Patrick David, they both sent me lottery tickets with the winning numbers. So one of them's going to be right.
So you sound to me, even though you don't want to say it, you sound more of a Dave Ramsey corner.
Not really. I'm more of a Stephen Thomas corner. He's our local guy who's got an incredible track record.
Easy cop out. All right.
But it's local. You're asking me to pick one?
I gave you two choices, Tony. Two choices.
Okay, fair enough. If I'm going to pick one or two, one out of the two that we're discussing and only pick one of them, I have to lean towards Patrick in this case. But I do it carefully, because we're going on the data points he's looking at, and I'm looking at the July data, which he showed June, and we're not seeing any drastic changes just yet. So this information is going to be changing slowly. So if you're going to pick one, if I have to, I'll take David.
All right.
You're texting him now, aren't you?
There is a chance. So last night, I went ahead and sent this text message off to a good friend that's getting ready to sell his home in New York. And I said, hey, Anthony, you might want to go ahead and move a little bit faster. The New York June contract reports just hit and saw a 29% drop in the last 30 days. So go. That's big from the local marketplace. Tim, what say you? Are you a Dave Ramsey guy on this or a Patrick Bet David?
So I'm going to go back to my previous statement. That is, Dave Ramsey's running a business, right? And here's the thing. I'm going to agree with not Dave Ramsey on this one. Again, as as my opinion may not be popular for realtors, it is my opinion based on all of markets, not just the real estate market. And I literally just had a call this morning. A friend of mine called me, goes, "Hey man, what's going on with the real estate market? What do you see going on?" And so I'll simplify that call down to, a brief statement. That is, I don't see it continuing to go up. It can't. Your inventory is going to increase. The buyers are going to decrease. And therefore you're going to have not necessarily a real estate crash. Don't get me wrong, but you're going to have a turn in the markets. It's going to show up. People are going to see it. The problem is going to be how it's perceived by the buyers, because the buyers drive the market. And if buyers start getting scared and cold feet, you're going to see that. It's going to look like it's all of a sudden. It's not all of a sudden. It's been happening since the beginning of the year or end of last year. But now when you start actually getting the bulk of the buyers starting to feel this and get scared and cold feet, that's when you see it. And so I know that we drive through neighborhoods now and he's going, "Man, I see signs everywhere. I never used to see them. They wouldn't last more than a week." And, you're right. Now he sees more than ever. I know that we've got, people who are going, "Man, I only had 5 showings this weekend, not 40. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
who sent us the TikTok into the newsroom yesterday where that one fella, that young realtor, was at an open house. It looked like a beautiful home, but he said literally nobody came in. Nobody. Who
Eating
sent
an
that
apple? He was eating an apple.
Yeah, he was eating the apple.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
That was all Tony's fault. So I feel, Tim, that I'm going to be able to keep the flowers and not send them to Dave Ramsey.
I think it's a fairly good bet. Like I said, he's a man running a business. I mean, let's be honest. He's charging $200 for a 30-minute financial consult. I mean, that blows my mind. Just blows my mind. But whatever.
Save your $200, ladies and gentlemen. Go hang out with Tim Parnell for 30 minutes and see what happens.
Yeah, I'll blow your mind for free.
So, Paul, right? We see a lot. Everybody in this report was talking about housing specific. But there's all these other factors that are happening, right? People are just losing confidence. On Tuesday's show, we saw the President of the United States of America say that we are in a time of war and peril. So a lot of positive stuff coming from Capitol Hill. And I still haven't heard from Congress yet. I didn't know we were at war. And I'm a combat veteran. So, I mean, somebody please tell me, check in with Sarge. However, I think we're dealing with a lot, right? Tim likes to say it's an everything kind of a situation / bubble. We are paying a lot of money everywhere. It is just pouring out. Mainstream media this morning is talking about people are just tapping into their savings, their pandemic savings, or a lot of the money that they might have made in their 401ks. We're getting drained. So I think the housing market is the tail of the dog on this thing. So what say you?
Absolutely. Well, I listened to that clip with Patrick and he's very convincing, but I will tell you to hold on to your flowers, and I'm going to take Dave Ramsey's side on this.
Oh, all right.
Hold on to the
break it down.
So and the guy's very good, but here's what I was thinking. So as inventory rises, right, then prices will decrease. It will become less of a seller's market. I still don't see that as a crashing. I see that as me as a realtor who has a file full of buyers that I've been trying to get in. I now have an opportunity to get them into properties.
Oh, I see. So we're just going to stay at a very low inventory because as this thing starts to trend, all of the buyers, like little fish waiting to go ahead and bite the hook, are just going to start biting and going.
That's kind of how I see it. And I could be wrong. I mean,
okay.
Does anyone agree with me on this show? Guys, if you agree with me, write it in the comments below, please.
Yeah. All right. So Paul is a Dave Ramsey corner. Tony likes to tip his little toe on both sides of the fence. Tim's definitely in a Patrick Bet David corner with Sarge. Kirk, what say you?
Well, before I answer the question, I'm going to give you some numbers. Right now, there's just about 500,000 homes on the market for sale. A balanced inventory in the United States would be about 1 million homes on the market for sale. So we do need an additional 500,000 homes. And as you see inventory rising on the scale that you saw in that chart, which I've shown you that chart on the show many times, yes, inventory is going up, and that's a good thing. We want to see a balanced market. Now, here's another statement that no one's really talking about. There are about 32 million qualified buyers in the United States. These are people that are creating new homes, right? People getting married, household formations, things like that. Millennials that are coming up and coming of age. About 33 is the age that most people start buying their first home. So if you add up all those, it's about 30 million, 32 million qualified potential buyers. And right now there are 500,000 homes on the market. So let's be unbelievably conservative. Let's cut the buyers down by 2/3 to 10 million. Let's call it 8 million. And let's triple the inventory to 1.5. So you have 1.5 million homes for sale and 8 million potential buyers, or even 5 million potential buyers. I think you've got a stable market coming. So it depends when you bought your home. If you bought your home 10 years ago and you enjoyed a 60% run up, and now the market goes down because it's balancing, and yes, buyers are going to get more patient. Sellers are going to have to drop their prices. This is all part of balancing an inventory and balancing a real estate market that needs to balance. So if you bought your home 10 years ago, you're going to end up with a 40%, 35% net appreciation, which is normal. Normal markets in the United States go up 3 to 5% a year appreciation. So if you average it out, we're on a normal scale. But if you bought your home in the last year or 2 years, you may feel some pain. And so I understand that. We also have, if you look at the charts for unemployment, is just starting to tick up. You're going to see reports from me on this show in the next 2-3 months showing unemployment's going up. That's going to be the last domino to fall before they announce a recession. And so things are going to change. But in every recession since 1970, except for the 2008 financial crash, which is a financial problem, not an economic problem, right? That was a banking industry issue. The housing market has gone up and appreciated through every recession in the United States other than that one. Is the sky falling? I don't think so. I'm a Dave Ramsey guy. Now, having said that, remember who Dave Ramsey is talking to. Dave Ramsey's audience is middle America, $50,000, earners, people that are trying to find a way into the next step into retirement. And so he's ultra conservative. But he's telling people not to rush, and he's probably telling people try and get into a home right now than spending your money on rent. Because if you're basically on a fixed income or a limited income, you're going to be better off putting your money into a home that you get to own eventually, or you can sell for appreciation whenever that time comes, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, than putting it into rent where you don't can recapture that money. So for those reasons, I'm Dave Ramsey.
I don't think Dave Ramsey's audience is going to be able to buy because the president said that the gas station attendants are stealing all of our money.
You're right. They're going to have a hard time, and they need to be on the path to buy, right? They might need a year or 2 years, or they need a plan for sure. And that's why he's charging $200, Tim. I think people would be better off working with Tim for free and getting a plan, or with me or Tony or everybody on the show. They don't have to pay to get a plan. You just have to have a relationship with somebody that you know, like, and trust that can help you organize yourself.
All right, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, share your opinion. Are you a Dave Ramsey opinion or a Patrick Bet David?
So I was gonna jump in on that because I mean I do agree. First of all, it sounds like Dave Ramsey could have the ability to single-handedly save the real estate market just by denying that there's any kind of reality going on here. Okay, and he could. He might have the influence. He might have the swing to pull that off. And who knows. What I would say is, I think before that ultimate outcome happens that Kirk is describing, I think you're actually going to have what's going to be a slump, a significant slump for a good chunk of time, good chunk being enough time that the real estate professionals are going to feel it, meaning maybe it's several months, maybe it's half a year or a year or something like that before we actually get into a balanced market. I think you're going to go from a euphoric high, which is what we've been in, and it's going to slump down because everyone's going to pump the brakes hard. People are going to wait to kind of see what the heck's going on before they keep plowing forward into this market buying. And then they'll jump in when the buyers start picking back up and you'll have more of a balanced market. But so what I'm saying is this is a cautionary tale to real estate professionals, which is be ready to survive long-term, mid to long-term on, a dry spell before we get to that balanced market. But I do believe a balanced market's in our future.
That is a really good suggestion. Dr. Peter Navarre was on mainstream news here about a week and a half ago, saying that the large majority of the real estate industry, mortgage and realtors, will be in the food line by the end of the year.
It's true. I mean, if people are not shifting right now, I mean, I wrote that book. Tony has talked about how to get 9 new referrals from every transaction. This is why I wrote it, because in the mortgage industry, in the last 3 weeks, we've seen like 30,000 people get laid off. Sprout Mortgage, which was the biggest non-prime mortgage lender in the country, went out of business yesterday, fired 450 people. So if you're a real estate agent and your leads are drying up, you better start getting creative on how you're going to rebuild that list. And then, to Tim's point, there's going to be a dip. Rates are coming down right now. We expected it going into the end of the summertime. Rates will come down, but they're going to go back up again. And I expect we're going to see the Fed's going to raise rates, and we'll talk about it in the next segment. But I don't think we're out of the adjustment period yet. And there is going to be a dip, and there's going to be a lot of pain, and we're feeling it already. I'm getting calls from mortgage brokers all over the country who are scared to death that they're going to be on the food line. They don't know where their next lead's coming from. They don't have realtor relationships, and they don't know how to help people or themselves. So yeah, it's feast and famine in this industry, unfortunately.
Well,
tell
those mortgage professionals that call to go over to Freedom Move USA and start talking to some of those folks, because there's a lot of leads that are coming in. Homeowners are wanting to save a lot of money, and maybe those mortgage folks can go ahead and help write some loans over there too.
Awesome.
So, any last thoughts before we get into the mortgage news with Captain? Oh, geez, come on now.
Well, here's some
bland.
I think he scared everybody.
All right. We'll save you guys for the last segment. Kirk, break down the mortgage industry for us. What is the Fed going to be increasing points again here in the near future? When's their next meeting?
Yeah, the next meeting is July 26th. And I would expect another 75 basis point hike, not because I think we need it at this point, but because I think the Fed is going to be a little aggressive and try and get ahead of things. And why not? It's already baked into the market. Rates are already expecting it on the mortgage side. The bond markets are expecting it. So I think they're going to go with the 75 basis points.
Well, I've been watching them very closely, very, very close, right? So I think what they just did with the 0.75 basis points, I think that was a little bit of a let's warm this thing up and see what actually happens, which is smart, right? If you're driving a diesel truck, you need to go ahead and let your motor run a little bit before you hit the throttle. So I think it's going to be more aggressive this next go around, to be honest with you, because they're seeing the reaction from their actions. And now there's going to be some more powerful, let's make some adjustments.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the economy is slowing. If you look at the manufacturing reports from Dallas, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Detroit, all the manufacturers are in negative production right now. And that's a huge indicator of how the economy is doing. So things are slowing. I don't know if they're going to go, they don't usually go more than quarter points at a time. So if they're not going to go 75, you're saying you think they're going to go 100 basis points, 1%. It could happen. They're also selling off those bonds, not repurchasing their bonds. So the mortgage industry bond market is adjusting as well. I don't know, but I agree with you, Jake, that they have space to be aggressive right now, and they're going to take it, because why wouldn't they?
So what's our current mortgage situation for everybody to know? 30-year, what's the ARMs doing? What's it look like?
Yeah, 30-year mortgage right now from Freddie Mac announced 5.7%. I've seen rates as low as 5.2% at a 1-point cost this week, and rates as high as 6.25%. It really depends on the quality of your file, your FICO score, your down payment, all those different pieces go into play. If you go to my website, approvemyloankirk.com, there's like 2.5 hours of videos there about what underwriters look for in a mortgage, so you can learn how to manipulate your own file. But I think the ARMs are around 5% right now, 4.5% if you pay a point or two. Continue to expect to pay points. Expect rates to take a dip here going into the end of the summer, and then start increasing again as we go into this Fed raising situation that we're talking about. And I think going into Q2 of 2023, once the recession is fully realized, you're going to see the Fed will start dropping rates again, and mortgage rates will start coming down.
Very interesting. All right. So now is the time to go ahead and pick up a note and go if you can.
Yeah, if you can move quick. I mean, it's going to be a small window. Like Tim said, there's going to be a dip in here. So we're kind of probably in a 60-day window to grab that dip on the mortgage rate. And then otherwise, you're going to be waiting till, late next year before you really would think about refinancing. So look to pay as few points as you need to and take the highest rate that's available so you're not cash out of pocket. Make sure you can cash flow and you can cover your monthly payment, but expect going into the second half of next year, you'll have an opportunity to refinance and drop that rate.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. So what
My
is the
pleasure.
Fed going to do next, ladies and gentlemen? That's on everybody's breath. So we've got a little bit of a report here. It says the economy shows no signs that inflation is, well, here's the rest of it.
She's the head of market strategy for alternative fixed income at JP Morgan Asset Management. Oksana, what do you expect the Fed's next move to be?
Well, I think today's minutes were quite interesting, Sarah. We saw, I think, 90 mentions of the word inflation and 0 mention of the word recession, which is, of course, what's on everyone's minds these days. And the market is kind of swinging back and forth, at least in rates. We saw quite a bit of a move today from an early morning rally now back into the high 2.9s as the market anticipates that the Fed will continue to choose, and their minutes underscored this again, they will continue to choose inflation over growth. And that is the name of the game. And that's why I think investors have to continue to be focused on capital preservation here.
So you're not buying into this whole Treasury rally on the idea that inflation has peaked and so have hawkish expectations around the Fed?
Not at this time. There are so many unknowns still. First of all, we have seen inflation. I know that there is widespread sort of expectation that inflation is going to moderate here, and it's sort of like this magical thinking that, if the market thinks about it hard enough, maybe it'll happen. But the reality is that the components of inflation that are continuing to tick up are stickier. It's core services. It is, of course, shelter. We don't know yet where wages are going to come in. We saw a continuously, very tight labor market picture with 2 vacancies for every 1 sort of employee. And so there are just very sticky components to the inflation figure, and there is really no telling that it is, in fact, moderating. And I think jumping into either duration risk or credit risk here is way, way premature. And let's not forget that we still do not know what quantitative tightening will bring us. That is somewhat of a wild card. We expect roughly $1.5 billion of Fed balance sheet runoff through the end of next year. That in itself is almost 0.75% hikes. So there are so many unknowns at this point. And a 2.9 on the 10-year, not a bargain yet.
A whole lot of I don't know what's going to happen. It sounds like Jerome over at the Fed, right? So, gentlemen, I feel like there's a lot of speculation in the market, and I do believe we are in a recession. We are seeing negative GDP now, and as we start rolling into most definitely the next 30 days and the next Fed meeting, I think they're going to have to use the word recession. What say you, Mr. Paul? Oh, Paul's on mute. Tony, what say you?
Well, there's a lot of variables to this. I'm going to come from this approach to help the Americans out because I love my country and I love my people. All of us hardworking Americans. Hear me well. Find a real estate agent you know, like, and trust. Find a great lender like Kirk Jaffe, or just call Kirk Jaffe and work on a plan. Because what I'm going to get to is Brandon Dufour, who gave us a comment about marry the home, date the rate. Shout out to him on that one. And you beat me to it because I was waiting my turn to say, and funny, we're thinking the same thing. To Americans out there, if you find a house that you can afford, whatever the rate is, look at the payment. If you can stay focused on your payment, regardless of what the rate is and the price of the house, you can find something that fits the payment that works for you to get ownership, just get in there and benefit from the tax benefit, the fixed rate you have to pay as opposed to rents going up. That might be a strategy for a lot of you. So while the news or anybody on the internet talks about the rate, we need to start looking at the end of the day, the payment. So if you work it backwards from here's the payment I can afford steadily for 5 or 10 years, ideally, then someone like Kirk could work the math backwards and say, okay, well, here's what the rates are. Here's your price point to aim for. It may not be the price point you want, but if it's now you can go shopping. Also, too, don't forget, folks, you could buy down your rate, but you're going to want to check with either Tim or Kirk to do the math to see, hey, Kirk or Tim, if I buy down my rate at this cost and I stay in the home for 10 years, is it worth doing that, or do I just pay the interest rate as it is? So there are a couple of strategies right there. So however the market goes, those of you that need to buy or really want to buy, no matter what you hear, those are two really fair strategies to talk about. But you're going to want to talk to someone who knows their math and their finances, like Tim or Kirk.
Well, it sounds like Tony knows what he's talking about too. I'm not going to officially vouch for him, but slightly.
I owe you how much? $100 for that? Let me make a note.
Yeah, Tony, we love you. Yeah, Tony knows what he's talking about. So if you're in Southern California, go talk to Tony. He's an interesting person to talk to regardless, so you'll enjoy it. Paul, what say you? They're not using the word recession. We have negative GDP, a lot of speculation in the market. What say you?
Well, I did hear a lot of I don't knows, and we don't know what's going to happen. I do think we are in a recession. And Kirk, you are the second lender that I talked to this week that said in 2023 will be a good time to buy a house due to the rates. And I'm having a hard time understanding that, because as inventory opens, from my understanding, rates will go up. So, you know, when there's low inventory, there's lower rates, but when there's high inventory, there's higher rates and the prices drop, right? So I'm really interested to know the mathematics behind that. Just curious.
Kirk, break it down.
I would separate those two numbers. I don't believe rates are influenced by inventory. Right. Rates are influenced by the economy. Inventory is influenced by consumer habits. So they may run in correlation, but I don't think one influences the other. Just like the 10-year bond, you may see, like they're saying, the 10-year bond's at 2.9. It was at 3.25 2 weeks ago. So it's come back down. It was down to 2.7 2 days ago. So it's kind of floating in this range, but that's not going to drive the value of mortgage rates, or the value of homes. It's just an indicator. So I think what you're seeing there is a situation, Paul, where it's more about consumer spending habits and affordability than it's more coincidental what you're saying. But people need to talk to Tim. They need to talk to their financial planners, figure out what their cash flows are, reset their budgets. Any time is a good time to buy a home. It's always going to be better for family, for children, for future wealth, for future tax benefits. It's always better to own a home. It just isn't easy right now for a lot of folks because we're in this massive economic transition in the country.
Outstanding. Tim Parnell, they're not saying the word recession yet, but you have droves of people coming over to Patriot Wealth Nation getting educated on how to shelter their hard-earned wealth and make sure that the impending recession doesn't affect it. Break this down for us.
Yep. So I don't need them to tell me that we're in a recession to know that it's there. If I spent my life leaning on what they told me I should believe, I'd probably be in a much worse position than I am right now. So as far as the people that we serve, I can tell you that anybody that's come on board since they've come on board and understood what we teach and how we help them, 0 of them, 0% have lost anything, meaning we have 100% success rate for making sure people keep their money. Anybody that's talked to us and hemmed and hawed about it and decided, maybe, but whatever, they're down. They're down. And so now you've got people going, well, do I buy the dip? And so I'm answering this question from a different point of view. I'm talking about the markets. And so what you've got is basically what's called a bear trap. Okay. A bear trap is where the markets are trending down. All of a sudden there's a spike up and everybody gets really excited and they think, oh, great. The worst is behind us. That is not true. You're going to see this trend back down, probably not too long of a time. And it's going to keep going, and so will that affect your buyers? Absolutely. This is why I look at everything, not just the markets, the real estate market itself. And so, but really, my job is to protect people from what is happening. And if you believe what I believe, I think there's a lot of intentional, obviously the Fed is raising rates intentionally to try and manipulate the markets. but I think there's a lot more than that happening. And so if you have a distrust and you don't believe that you're safe in the markets, I'm happy to help you get some information to protect you from that. But at the same time, doing nothing is not a great strategy for what's happening in this market. And as far as real estate goes, I would say locking in a fixed mortgage is better than being in a variable rent that continues to go up while this inflation continues. So there's that. But obviously, you got to talk to some experts like Kirk and himself to figure out what you can qualify for in this particular market.
Well, I know the landlords are licking their chops, especially when they're bumping 30% prices, right?
Oh, yeah, they sell.
Yeah.
If you want to know where the Fed is going, the PCE, which is the core inflation rate that the Fed uses, it strips out housing and medical expenses, is at about 4.5% right now, 4.8%. And the federal funds rate is about 1.75. So the Fed looks to keep things in alignment. So they're trying to get from 1.75 to 4.8, or bring 4.8 down and 1.75 up, so they meet somewhere around 2%. Well, obviously we're not getting there yet. So what we're looking for in terms of the Fed raising rates is they will probably have to raise rates another maybe 2% from where they are now to get that 4.8 to come all the way down while they're coming up, and they'll meet somewhere around 2.5, 2.75, and then they'll start dropping rates to bring that whole level back down to that 2% core rate that they're looking for, that PCE rate. So that's kind of what you can expect. I think going forward, we're looking at the Fed to raise about a total of 2%, 2.5% more on the federal funds rate. But how do they do that? Will they do 1 point on this meeting and 1 point on the next one and try and get there quick? Or are they going to try and spread it out over the next 2-3 quarters because of what Tim's mentioned, all the different variables that are involved as they're trying to manage supply chains, manufacturing, all these different things that go into it. Is it going to be drawn out, or are they going to go after it quick? I don't know.
Well, and I'll ask you a question just for, I know you know the answer, but for the sake of the audience that may not know, what is the Federal Reserve? Is it federal, and is there reserve? That's my question. Anybody?
Yeah, the Federal Reserve is actually a disinterested third party. Their job is to create stability in the financial markets, and they do it primarily with two levers. One, increasing or lowering the short-term interest rate, which affects credit cards, corporate lending, and adjustable lending, home equity lines of credit, things like that. Does not directly, in fact, impact long-term interest rates like 30-year mortgages. And their second lever is to buy and sell bonds that either puts money into the market or takes money out of the market. But they're actually not a federal organization at all. They're almost like an advisor, right, Tim?
And they don't have a reserve. I watch them printing money all the time.
Yeah.
Well, they advise. So they advise the government whether or not they need to print money, and then the Treasury prints the money. And then the Fed buys the money on a loan. So every time the Fed buys money out of the market, it costs America interest, because America pays, like, what is it, Tim? I think it's about 6% is what America pays in interest to the Fed when they buy money that America's printed, which is a way to stabilize the markets.
Oh, this is all just wonderful. This is all just wonderful information, isn't it? Somebody, please give me some positive news to report, please.
Look at my background; it's beautiful back here.
Oh, it's great, man. You've been in the way of it the whole time. I'm just like, just move.
Well,
Tony, you're going to have to go out and do some street walking for us and talk to some of the locals down there in California and ask them some questions and see what they think and bring them back to the show.
I'm okay with that. We'll get a lot of variable opinions. I can go to
Newport Beach. Do some Jay Leno stuff for us, Tony.
Oh, you kidding me? Who are you talking to over here? My God. I'll get that live. Don't worry. That's coming up, folks. And by the way, in case you all missed it, we have quite a bit of audience participation going on here.
Yeah, fantastic.
Those comments. Look at that.
All right, so big takeaways from today's show, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't been through it all, if you're planning on watching the replay, go to Freedom Move USA. If you want to go ahead and save $10,000 to $25,000 on your next move, and find an agent over there that is certified and licensed that can go ahead and help you do that. Looks like we've got a little bit of contention between Dave Ramsey and Patrick Bet David. So one says market down, one says we're good, and Dave Ramsey says it's just a whole bunch of fear porn out there. So we will see. Mr. Kirk Jaffe says Q2 and forward in 2023 is going to start being a better time rate wise. So looks like we've got a rough 12 months ahead of us with indecision. So if you're looking to go ahead and shelter that dollar, talk to the Duke of the dollar himself, Tim Parnell over at Patriot Wealth Nation. He's helping you save all of your money instead of giving it away. But and Tony and I had a little bit of back and forth today, Tony, but it was good. You're a good co-host, Tony.
Well, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
that's
Appreciate that.
all the nice things I'm going to say about you today, Paul.
Wow, I better play that back later, huh? Show my wife.
Paul, how can people get in touch with you if they're needing representation in North Carolina?
Absolutely. You guys can call me on my cell phone. It's 336-963-3684, or just find me on social media at Paul NC Realtor.
Sounds
Mr.
good.
Rogers of real estate.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. We appreciate you. Tim Parnell, break it down for us. How can people get educated and protect their dollars instead of giving it away? And
absolutely.
Crying?
We do free consults. All right. We don't charge you for it. We know times are tough, so we're not trying to nickel dime you. And you can reach me at tim@patriotwealthnation.com, where you'll meet with me and we'll have a conversation to see what we can do to get you squared away and protect you from all this nonsense that's going on.
Yep. Tim Parnell, ladies and gentlemen. I call him all the time. I think I used up all of my free credits. I'm waiting for the bill to go ahead and come in the mail.
Oh man, you're good. You got a revolving one. We'll cash it in on the back end over a beer.
That's what I'm afraid of. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, go talk to Tim Parnell. Thank me later. Okay, seriously. Captain Kirk Jaffe, break it down for us. If real estate agents need to go ahead and fill up their pipeline instead of standing in the chow line at the end of the year, what should they do now? How can they go ahead and help educate borrowers, getting them onto a lifeline, working through an ultimate home buyer program? Break it down once again.
Yeah, just email me, kirk@kirkjaffe.com. I'll give you the entire plan. You can work with your clients on how to get them on a path to buy. And I'll also help you with getting those 9 referrals on every transaction. They are definitely there, and I built a 25-year business off of it. Never paid a single dime in marketing, done it all for referrals. So the techniques actually work, and they work quickly. So yeah, reach out to me, 818-469-2189 or kirk@kirkjaffe.com, and I'm happy to talk with you.
Thank you very much, Kirk. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Tony, I think if people don't call Kirk, that's just a foolish thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a phone call. You could be on your Bluetooth earpiece, ironing your dollar bills like Tim does, and you could be learning some good information.
You think Tim Parnell irons his dollar bills?
Oh, no, he does dry cleaning.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. Absolutely.
This one's wrinkled. What are we doing with this one?
Tony, listen, I like saying nice things about you. I'm just trying to keep you humble.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know you have only love for me, and especially the fans, which is why I personally appreciate everybody here. You know, Tim, Kirk, Paul, you, myself. You know, we love our country. We want to help all our people here, and I think it's why people really should tune in. I'm not just saying that because we're here, but realistically, you know, we get another 100 shows in. This information is going to get deep. We keep our feet on the ground while looking up with hope, and all of our hearts are in the right spot. So whenever you hear us talking about any other co-hosts and all our correspondents, it's because we know, like, and trust them. And as Kirk mentions many times, referral is key. So one of the many reasons why people should tune in is possibly connect with any one of us for their needs, because they see us here. We're real people, and we're taking the time to go live, which means we want to reach out to all our guests. We had Brandon, Michael, and Andrew in here today with great comments and a lot of good information. And I think this show is just going to keep growing, and we're going to have a lot of love out there and hopefully help a lot of people, and for free right here.
I know it. I know it. Ladies and gentlemen that are watching, if you could do us a favor and just grab that little like button, it helps out the algorithm, gets it out to more folks, more real estate professionals to go ahead and help out. So we would greatly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we stream live right now every Tuesday and Thursday at high noon Eastern, 0900 Pacific. If you haven't done so already, go over to reunation.com. check us out at the Real Estate America's newsroom. Enter your information to go ahead and get show notes and hot insider news. And also, if you have any news or would like to actually be on the show, enter your information over here. Give us a jingle, and we'll go ahead and get you up here on the main stage. And another big shout out to our sponsors over at Freedom Move USA. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and help out your clients, or if you are planning on making a move and don't have a real estate agent yet identified, check out Freedom Move USA. They're going to get you hooked up with the real estate agent in your local area that's certified and can help you save $10,000 to $25,000. Or you might just want to give that 25 grand away. But
who says no to more money? As my wife would say, everyone says yes to money, especially savings. I'm qualified in the Portola Springs area, so a lot of us agents out there, we have very similar tools and tactics. But boy, when I bring up saving $10,000 to $25,000 off your move, you should see the look on people's faces. What? It's really amazing, and it's all sincere too. There's no trickery. It's all honest to God savings.
Yeah, it's like the Dollar Shave Club scenario versus the retail razors. So tapping into a whole nationwide network, owner operators and local moving vendors, they've got it all figured out over there at Freedom Move USA. So
employing good people, doing the right thing at just a better price. That's all it is.
Yep, 10-4. Good deal. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's us today. We're going to wrap this thing up. Once again, we ask for your love. And today we're all rolling 7 of the month. And be blessed and unstoppable. If you need us for anything, go over to runation.com, enter your information, or reach out to any of these fine gentlemen that joined us today on the show. Be safe this weekend. Stay blessed and unstoppable. We want to see all of you back here with your fingers and your toes next Tuesday. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.